Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hi guys, this is your host, Alicia Debrell with Insight Media, and today I'm interviewing Mike Cruz. Mike Cruz is a seasoned real estate agent with over a decade of experience in the Las Vegas market. Cruz started his career as a real estate agent in 2004 and has continued to help a wide variety of clients along the way. His experience working with buyers, sellers, investors, and pretty much anybody needing help with a real estate transaction in the Las Vegas market really makes this for a great interview. Mike is going to educate us on what a first-time homebuyer needs to know. He will go into great detail on what to expect from deciding to buy your first home all the way to the closing table. I'm excited to welcome a real estate agent with over 12 years of experience to help first-time home buyers take on the biggest investment of their life. So without further ado, I want to welcome Mike Cruz to the show. Hi, Mike. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you.
So tell me, what kind of people do you help and how do you help them?
I work with both home buyers and sellers, but my passion is really working with first-time home buyers. I view myself more as a consultant rather than a salesperson, and I guide my clients through the entire process. I really take my time, listen to what their needs are, and guide them. And working with first-time home buyers, the excitement and gratification that I get when I hand them their keys, there's no better feeling in the world.
Nice. So what are some things that you should think about before making a decision? Because, buying your first home is a huge one. So what are things that, if I'm a first-time home buyer, what are some things I should think about beforehand?
Some of the biggest choices out there are what neighborhood you want to live in. And it really depends on the person's lifestyle. And if you have children, schools are probably your most important decision. And it depends on what your lifestyle is. If you enjoy restaurants, you'll want to eat out, how close you want to be to work. I've had clients that want to be as far away from work as possible because they don't want to drive by their place of business every day on their days off. So it really depends on the person's lifestyle and where they want to be.
So what their needs are.
Right.
Okay. All right. So do I really need a real estate agent? I mean, there's Craigslist, there's Zillow, there's all kinds of websites out there that can, I can find a house myself. Do I really need a real estate agent?
There are some options out there. However, a lot of those options are not always accurate. And you want somebody to protect your interests and your needs. Real estate agents have a bad rap that all they do is want to collect a paycheck. But I can't speak for every agent, but I speak for myself in that I really want to do what's best for my clients and find out what's best for them and represent them in the best way possible. Once again, I consider myself a consultant, so helping my clients is really what I do. And with some of those other sources out there like Zillow, they're just not accurate. Many of the homes you see on Zillow were sold months ago. They'll keep homes on there for up to 2 years after they're sold. Had a situation a few weeks ago with Zillow on a home that I was selling that had just been fully remodeled. And Zillow stated it had been remodeled back in 1999. I had tried getting that fixed on Zillow, but Zillow's policy is they won't place a home as being fully remodeled unless 10% square footage was added. So this was a 1,700 square foot home with nothing added, so Zillow would not state that it was remodeled.
Huh. So by working with a real estate agent, you just get more accurate information.
Correct.
And also, I would assume, if I'm, just looking on Zillow or whatnot, I guess I wouldn't have access either to the houses, correct?
Well, you can see the houses that are there. Not every house that's available is on Zillow. And like I said, some homes aren't available that are on Zillow. because they've been sold months ago.
Okay. So tell me, what exactly does a real estate agent do? I mean, this is my first home, so I don't know.
Real estate agent guides you through the entire process, from finding the home and then, more importantly, negotiating the right deal for you, whether it be price, the terms, making sure that the right repairs get done on the home, negotiating even the closing date, because what might work for you may not work for the seller, and we have to come to an agreement on that as well.
Okay, so I mean, I know that there must be fees for your services. Tell me about those. How much does it cost to use a real estate agent?
I can't speak for every agent, but for me, when I'm working with a buyer, I do not charge my clients any fees. The seller pays the real estate agent, not the buyer.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. All right, so I mean, what makes you so successful with working with new home buyers? If I'm a first-time home buyer, why would I want to choose you?
I try and treat every client as if they're my only client at that time. I give my clients truly undivided attention when I'm with them, and when I'm talking to a client, when they're in front of me, there's what's important to me at that time. Nothing else matters.
Okay, so what would you say the top 2 things to consider when deciding before working with a real estate agent? Like, what are 2 traits that you should consider or that they should have that you think would make them a good real estate agent?
You always want to work with somebody with experience, and then also somebody that's truly going to work on your behalf. You want an agent that knows the area you're looking in, knows the homes, and the builders, even on older homes, who built that home, when was it built, and finding out the little nuances that tend to be with particular homes in certain areas. Are they prone to have plumbing problems? Stuff like that. Okay. So having the right agent, somebody with the experience that can guide you through the whole process, plus know those little extras, can really take you a long way in finding the right home.
Okay, so tell me about, I know that there's special financing for first-time home buyers. Can you explain that to me at all? I know you're not a mortgage broker, but can you enlighten us a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. There are some fantastic programs out there for first-time home buyers. FHA loan, which are first-time home buyer federal programs, they offer down payments as low as 3%. There are additional programs out there that not only are zero down, they also offer down payment assistance programs to buy down interest rates, take care of closing costs. So there's some great programs out there that really, if you have $1,000 to $1,500 available, you can buy a home, and you don't have to have perfect credit either. A lot of people think they have to have 20% down in perfect credit. That's just not the case. So moderate credit is okay too.
Things have changed a little bit.
A lot. In the last 5 years, there's a lot more programs that have really opened up, giving people an opportunity that didn't have that opportunity before. There's programs out there 10, 12 years ago that were pretty funky, and that's what got us into the housing downturn during the recession. But in the last year or so, there's a lot of new programs out there that really open up, that welcome first-time home buyers in, that really didn't exist before. And they're programs that really, they're designed to give that first-time home buyer something they can really afford and they're comfortable with the payments, versus the old programs where they were adjustable rate mortgages, and after a couple of years the payments went sky high and people were losing their homes. Those programs don't exist anymore. These new programs are on fixed interest rates where people can afford them for their entire lives.
Nice. That's good to know. It's really good to know. Okay. So I know that there's a thing called a home association. So Can you tell me, I mean, is that just for condos, or do you have those in subdivisions too? How does that work?
Whether it's a condo, townhouse, or a single-family home, most homes, at least in the Las Vegas area, built since about the year 2000, do have a homeowners association. And previous to that, even some of them, the older homes had homeowners associations as well. The homeowners association, typically you need to look at the cost and what you're getting for that cost. Some of them do are gated neighborhoods. Some have pools. Some have community centers. You have to take into consideration what you're getting for your money when looking at a homeowners association. And also, what do you want to do with your home? How strict is that association? As a general rule, in a homeowners association, there's fixed costs into running that association, and a small community typically has a higher association fee than a larger community, and they may provide the same amount of things. So it's just something to check into, and it's something that your real estate agent can really help you with, and that's one of their duties, is to really help you, guide you through the association as well.
So that's not included on your mortgage payment. That's something up and beyond your mortgage payment.
Correct. The homeowners association is always separate from your home mortgage.
Okay, so it's definitely something to consider when you're picking the price, because if your home association fees, $200 or $300 on top of a mortgage payment can make things a little bit more difficult when it comes to doing your monthly expenses.
And when you do qualify for your mortgage, the loan officer will look at that HOA payment also and factor that in as if it's part of the payment to make sure you can afford it.
Okay, cool. So now that we're talking about neighborhoods, what do you find to be the most important thing to consider when picking a neighborhood?
If you have children, the most important thing is schools. Otherwise, the number one question I get from clients is the crime in a neighborhood. And that's something that, as real estate agents, we can't necessarily answer, because what we consider a good neighborhood and what you consider a good neighborhood may be two totally different things. It's completely subjective. So I always guide my clients to check with the local police department. There's also apps on your smartphone that can tell you the crime in the neighborhood. There's one particular one called Alert ID. It will show you the crime in the last 30 days in any given neighborhood.
Okay. Is it important to see neighborhoods at different times of the day?
Absolutely. You want to know about the neighborhood. Drive through there during the day, in the evening, even from morning to afternoon. Are there a lot of children walking to school? Just see what's going on throughout the whole neighborhood, and so you have a good idea of where you're actually moving. Are people out in front of their homes chatting to each other? What's going on? And is it right for you?
Yeah, I would imagine, especially if you're, buying a house that's really close to a school, because I guess there would be traffic, I guess when people are being dropped off, or when, the kids are getting out of school. So I guess, that would be really important, especially for traffic reasons too, because that could add some time onto your commute.
Yeah, okay. And if you're located close to a school, where are the parents parking to pick up the kids? You don't want somebody parking in front of your driveway every day.
True. Very true. Very true. That would be a little bit of annoying to me, I'd have to say.
Right.
Okay, so when you have a first-time home buyer, is there any rule of like how many houses they should look at before making a decision, or is there anything like you can give advice about that?
There is. Typically, never look at more than 5 houses in any single day. Sometimes it does take going out 3, 4, 5, and even 6 times before finding that right house. But never look at more than 5 in the same day, because they all start to blend together after a while. The average person will look at a total of 7 to 8 homes before making a decision. I've had clients that watch programs on HGTV that think they need to look at 300 before making the right decision, and that's usually not the case. And as an experienced agent, I look at the expression on my clients' faces when we're looking at a home. Usually when they see the right one, their face just lights up and I instantly know.
Now, do you tell your buyers to maybe take video or take extra pictures, or do you kind of give them like a website to look at?
Definitely look at everything that's available media-wise, and I do suggest my clients do take additional pictures, video, whatever they need to refer to. And if there's a particular thing that they're not sure about in the home, that's what they need to focus on, is to see if that maybe will work. An example would be a dining room. If they have a large dining room set and they're not really sure if their dining room set will fit and it's an important piece of furniture that they need to keep, take a video of that whole dining room. See if it will fit. And even I've been known to bring a tape measure and measure out an area for a client just to make sure that they do ultimately end up with the right home.
Cool. So if I'm a first-time home buyer and I just say, I love this house and this is a house for me or my family, what's next? How does that process work?
The first thing you have to do is to place an offer. A good buyer's agent will contact the seller's agent on a particular home, build rapport with them, find out what the seller is really looking to get out of the home. Sometimes if it's a job transfer, they just need to sell it as quickly as possible. And the price isn't always the most important thing. So building that rapport with that other agent is really important for the agent as well as the client. And so you can also prepare the right offer.
Okay, so an offer, if the house is listed for, I don't know, $150,000, do you help advise your clients? So let's just say I think, well, hey, I want to try to save a little money. Maybe we should offer, $100,000. Do you help advise so they're not likely to lose that opportunity?
Absolutely. And I find out from my client, question I always ask is, if you don't get this house, is that going to be okay? And depending on their answer is how we proceed. If it's not the absolute must-have house, we'll go in a little bit lower. If it's a house they're like, no, I have to have this house, we write the offer accordingly. Sometimes we can also get the closing costs negotiated into the original offer by making the actual offer a little bit better, but ask for that additional closing cost so there's less out-of-pocket money for the buyer.
Okay. So let's just say the seller accepts the offer. Now what?
Once the seller accepts the offer, that's when the real home buying process starts. And that starts with escrow. Here in Nevada, we're an escrow state, and it is through an escrow company. The escrow company is responsible for providing title insurance on the property to make sure the buyer gets clean title. There's also a home inspection, which I always advise my clients as buyers to be at. Third part is the appraisal. The home must appraise at the sales price value in order for the buyer to get a loan on it. And then they work through the loan with their loan officer. As it gets closer to closing, we'll do a walkthrough of the property, make sure everything that's supposed to be there is there, and everything is in working order. And finally, you have your closing, which is where your loan is funded. You sign your final paperwork, and then ultimately you get your keys. And the entire process can take about 30 to 45 days, depending on the situation.
Okay. Well, take me back to the walkthrough. So what if I'm going through the walkthrough and there's something that I want changed or fixed? Can that be done at this point, or does that have to be done in the beginning?
It depends on what it is. If it's something that was supposed to be fixed after the home inspection and it still hasn't been, we can absolutely work to get that corrected. If it's something that was part of the home inspection and we decided at that point not to have it repaired, but you want it repaired now, that might be a tough situation. But we can certainly work with the seller to get it taken care of.
Okay. So now we're at the closing table. How do I know what to do at a closing table?
The number one thing is there shouldn't be any surprises at the closing table. You should be aware of everything that's going to happen at that point as far as your loan amount, your monthly mortgage payments, and ultimately what you're responsible for. I'm there, as well as I usually like to work with loan officers that also go to the signing and sit there, go through all the paperwork with you, explain everything as you're signing so there aren't any surprises.
Do I get that paperwork prior to the closing, or do I have to wait to the closing?
You do have to wait till the closing. Typically, though, you will get your disclosures from the loan officer a minimum of 3 days before, so you have a solid understanding of everything that's going to happen and what you're responsible for and your costs are with as far as closing costs, your monthly payment.
Okay. So you as a real estate agent, you would be there to kind of hold my hand through the process.
Exactly. It's definitely, the real estate agent is there for moral support at that point, because most everything has to do with the loan and the loan officer, what they discussed.
Okay. So what do you think is the biggest mistake you see new home buyers making when buying their first home?
When home buyers are looking to buy their first home, the biggest mistake I see is them looking to find the perfect home. 99% of first-time home buyers plan on buying another home in the future, and it doesn't have to be the perfect home. They need to be willing to have a little give and take and negotiate with themselves a little bit on what's important in that house, because they usually are not going to be there more than 5 to 6 years.
Okay, so maybe you see them more like, oh, in my head, this is the ideal home I have, this is the ideal home I have in my head, so every single thing has to be perfect, and it doesn't.
Right. And where this comes into play is with the mortgage payment. Don't overbuy on your first house. Be comfortable with the numbers. You don't need to get yourself into a huge amount of debt and be house poor where you're struggling to make the payment every month, because you might have kids in 3 to 5 years and you'll need a bigger house. You can always do that then.
Your situation could change and all kinds of different things.
Absolutely.
Okay. So would you think, if you had one piece of advice to give to somebody who's just starting out in this process, would that be it?
Yes, definitely. Be comfortable with your mortgage payment. Go with what you're comfortable with and what you can afford. You don't have to stretch yourself just because in a few years you might need a bigger house. The beautiful thing about owning a home is that you can always sell it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, definitely. So what would you say is the biggest myth or misconception that people have about buying their first home?
The biggest misconception is what I mentioned earlier with what people see on television. Programs like House Hunters on HGTV, where they look at 3 houses and pick one. That isn't real life. Most people need to look at a lot more homes. There are people that only need to see one house. But for the most part, do what's right for you. Don't think you have to go by a model of what you see on TV and picking out a house out of 3. It's not like that.
Okay. To be a little bit more realistic about the process.
Exactly.
Okay. So if, a home buyer or a first-time home buyer needed to contact you, how would they go about doing that?
Welcome to giving me a call. My phone number is 702-286-3434. I also have a website, www.lvproperties.vegas. And you can contact me that way as well. I'm also on Twitter at The Cruise Team. Or find me on Facebook at LV Homes by Mike.
Okay, and Cruise is Kruse, correct?
That's correct. No, it's a little confusing sometimes.
All right, great. Well, Mike, first of all, I really want to thank you for your time today. Your information is so valuable. I mean, you've given information not only for a first-time home buyer, but pretty much any buyer needs to know.
Absolutely. I'm here to help people and guide them. Like I mentioned originally, I'm look at myself as a consultant, not necessarily a salesperson. I want to find the person the right home, not just a home.
Well, I really appreciate your time. This was a great interview. All right, guys, this is your host, Alicia Debrell with Insight Media. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.